Hi, and good morning, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. And as you can hear in the background, sorry if it's loud or disturbing. I borrowed the coffee maker from the office. Hopefully the sound levels are decent to all right. It's already bright outside here, so it's getting light early in the mornings here in Sweden. It's insane. I always get used to the long, dark days and nights of the winter, but I never get used to the light of the spring and the summer. Hi, nice to see you too. And welcome back. Usually at this time, I start getting ready for work. And as it's Saturday now, one of my perks is usually I can sleep in for an hour, but today I'm doing this. And usually in the weekdays at this time, there is a mini golf thing outside of this place that I clean every morning. So it's kind of a relief to not have to do that this morning. Better to enjoy some coffee with you guys and girls and others. In other words, all of you. Nice to see someone from Australia as well. I guess it's day for you. What time is it in Australia, Shane? And to Kiss of Death. Hi. Nice to see some Argentinians too. Good morning. Cheers. 1 p.m. That's pretty good. It's usually I'm always awake then too. Nice to see more Australians. Cheers. And sure, Kiss of Death, ask anything. And if I don't have a good answer for it, I'll let you know. God morgon Elisabeth. Damn, this brewery is a bit loud. I'm sorry if it's disturbing. I didn't expect it to sound this much. Usually I'm in the kitchen while it's on. It's like industrial ASMR. I need to find a way to put some reverb on this. Ridiculous. Hi, Lewis. I'll open the window a bit to let some of the birds in. But it's expected to be sunny day and tomorrow, so we're expecting a lot of people. open up outside with a lot of new tables, so people can be in parties of 4 at a distance. So it's going to be nice. Hi, Monica. Nice to see people from Brazil too. And nice to hear that my music works for astrophotography. That's nice to hear, Shane. And yeah, I'm planning to do some more. I have my piano with me here in my living quarters above the restaurant, and besides paying some bills, when I get my next paycheck, I look forward to getting like something proper to make some more intuitive beats with, because I don't like electronic drums really, and they take too much space. So I think it's being like something from Nord. Their drum pads are interesting to me. Because you can use it both as a synthesizer and a drum, which feels more intuitive than sitting like this on a sequencer for me. So when I have that, I will do some more meditative loops. As for the Life Lover promo, I have it, the original tape that we recorded on at my home, but now I'm at work, so I can't show it in person right now, but I can look it up. There's nothing wrong with feeling lost or confused. That's normal, I think. It's a part of life. It's how you get through it that matters, and who you are at the end of it. I was pretty lost and confused last year, as the world pretty much told me that my existence is unnecessary by shutting down everything that I rely on to make a living. But of course, the world is not about me. And I know that getting everyone healthy and safe is more important. And I'm fortunate enough to live in a part of the world where I can starve comfortably and not be forced out on the streets. Ah, nice to see someone from Chicago as well. I haven't been there yet. Hi. And hi, C. And to Tim, if we're going to see a new release from Consider Suicide Hypothermia next, because I have the equipment to make minimalist piano music and stuff like that. It's definitely going, and also I have my acoustic guitar here and some other stuff. So it's definitely going to be a few Consider Suicide releases before the next Hypothermia release. It was finished and recorded 3 years ago now, or in August it's going to be 3 years since we recorded Svartkonst 2. But still having to settle things with the record label to have it released on my terms, where I will never be able to live with myself. But during that recording session, we rented a mill in the countryside, and beyond recording that album, we recorded another album that I had composed 2 years earlier, along with 2 new EPs that I recorded or composed that year. And as I said, that's been 3 years now, so I've made about 1 or 2 albums and EPs each year since then that are awaiting to be recorded too. So there's a lot coming up. And yeah, Sweden never really did a lockdown. We just shut down all entertainment for some weird reason, but while malls and other stuff has been always open, like in many other countries, which doesn't make sense because you can order clothes online and you weren't allowed to try on the clothes in the stores either, so it removes the entire purpose of going to the store or the mall. Like if you're buying pants, you just have to know your sizes and hope it fits and so on. And another ridiculous thing is that I mentioned previously another time, that there are limitations on how many you are allowed to be in a restaurant, but there is no control on how people get here. So if they're asymptomatic or infected, there is no way to check that unless every place does tests. But here they haven't been doing that. But my sister, as she works in a hospital, she's been vaccinated, and both my parents have had their first shots by now. So I'm glad about that. There's still a month or 2 away before I can do anything. Yeah, exactly. So it's good that we finally, with the weather clearing up, that we can have more people outside, because then people can be safe or safer compared to inside. How do I deal with feelings of lost and confused? I take a walk. Like if you have access to a park or nature anywhere, like even if you have to travel to it, do it. It will benefit your life in ways you can't even imagine, and it always helps. And Monica, I am 36. What time is it in Sweden? It's 13 minutes past 5 in the morning right now. And my shift starts at 7. And I need to do some stuff around this place in preparation. So I think I'm aiming for being finished with this in about an hour or so. I will try to enjoy the coffee and not just drink it too fast, but my habit is drinking everything fast. Can't help it. And to Eon, I've never been to Russia, unfortunately. I've had 2 different mini tours or concerts planned there, but they've both been postponed, unfortunately. So, yeah, as the world is looking right now, it's going to be postponed at least until next year. But I look forward to it. Mm. And that's for, yeah, I remember the question from a comment in my previous video here. Now that it's been mentioned, that I will be doing recordings of when I paint. And the camera I used for the walk is good for like stop motion pictures and time-lapse photography and videos. So I'm going to make videos where I show from start to finish how a painting emerges from nothing, and talking about the process and the different ingredients that I use in the ceremony. As for my misophonia, it doesn't really get triggered when I'm walking around like that. Like, my instinct, of course, would be to run away from it if I wasn't recording or things like that. But I am used enough to being in cities that I don't get like a panic attack from sounds like that. But when I'm by myself at my house in the forest, there's a road close to my house, and when I hear like chainsaws and people shutting their doors on their cars and other machines going off, then I definitely have a harder time with it, because that's a place where I expect quiet and solitude. While here, being closer to a city, I expect noise, so it's not as bad. And back to Monica about making music, if I have any tips. To me, sound design is incredibly interesting. And that means learning about different production tools and what you can do with the different settings or tools that you have in a recording software, and how you use them in a mix on the sound, and how you can make it sound as good as possible, or in some cases bad, depending on what kind of music you're interested in making. And then, of course, using different effects is a big passion of mine. I think it's very interesting with effect units. So it depends on if you're interested in making something raw and minimalistic, or if you want something more ambient and like a wall of sound. There's plenty of wonderful like demos of different equipment on YouTube, so it's easy to study it on your own. And then, of course, if you have access to a music store where you can try out different amplifiers and effect pedals, I think that's a great way to find something that speaks to you and what kind of sound that you're interested in making through like to amplify your vision. That's a good place to start, I think. And of course, as always, nothing for me starts without nature. So try like going to a place that inspires you, no matter if it's somewhere in a city or in nature. Walk, listen to it, see if it has anything to say to you. And I'm drinking coffee. I made 4 cups, and I'm on my second one right now. And returning to Ian, if I like industrial noise, I don't mind it, but I always forget about it, because that's an entirely different way of sound design and production that I'm interested in, but it takes a while for me to get into it, so I don't listen to others making it, but I do enjoy making it myself. And I have had a project with one of my friends from Offermood in the past, where we made the concept of it and recorded. We borrowed like old forgery, like with blacksmith anvils from an old matchstick factory in the countryside city where I grew up, that is over 100 years old. And we recorded the percussion there from different anvils and other tools. And then we remained to record the rest of the structures. And as for how work is going, it's going well. Thanks. I look normal, I think. But yeah, I feel fine. Get along well with my coworkers, and we have a good menu that I'm used to as well. Some improved items, which is nice. Nice to see another restaurant worker in the chat. And yeah, I used to cleaning and stuff like that at restaurants in the past too. That's usually a part of the beginning of any career in restaurants. And back in the early Life Lever days, I used to clean a daycare center at nights too. So I found that to be a good time to listen to music as well. So I'm glad to see that I'm part of someone's ritual. And as for if I enjoy the ambient artist GAS or GAS, I've never heard of it, and I will mostly likely not, because if I don't know the person, I usually forget about it and don't hear it. And if I will sing again in upcoming projects and hypothermia, I am doing vocals on the second album, or second part of the Svartkonst series. So that's going to be released when I'm done with the label and making a deal for it that is not bullshit, that isn't ripping me and my lifetime project off. And hi to those of you joining the stream and chat again. And hi, Paul. Nice to see you. It's been a while. Good evening, I guess. Hopefully Canada is good this time of the year. And to Dunkelheit, as far as selling personalized songs, yeah, I'll definitely make something for the autumn when I've gathered some more equipment that I have on my list for this year. But right now I'm still focused on finishing the previous songs that were ordered from me. I have all the equipment and I've composed everything and recorded the samples and field recordings of water and birds and other things that were requested from me. So yeah, I'm looking forward to do more things, conceptual things like that. And hi to North Carolina as well. And Monica, nature made me start music, or some will call it the devil. The emptiness, the void, the night. There is something about nature that just speaks through me, and I'm blessed to be like a catalyst or an instrument that can speak its language, translate it for the rest of you. And if I would care if people made cover vocals of songs and change lyrics or the language, and my friend Dea made that from one of my earlier songs, actually. That's how we got in contact a bit, like around, I think it was 11 years ago or so. 10 or 11 years ago, he wrote me about making one of my songs by translating it from Swedish to French. And as you all know, he's incredibly talented and made a great work. So it's all about the intent. If you're passionate about it, I'm all for it. And Paul, as for elaborating on Mexican concerts and art displays, well, I have some friends over there. Well, that's what I wish to call them at least. I don't know what they refer to me as I've been away the past year and haven't been able to communicate with them as I usually do. But it's a place I like a lot, and through them I was able to perform my art as galleries and old theaters. And it's been a very interesting experience, I think, and it taught me a lot about my process and things that I can get better at when it comes to how I present my art, as well as things to think about before making videos and art performances. So each time it taught me things that made me a better artist and a better painter. So I'm thankful for that. And right now, I don't have any plan beyond what I'm doing in the upcoming days at home and other times in the summer when I'm going back. And to Maya, about Nirvana, I've never been a fan, honestly. I see why people appreciate them, and I know that they've been important in many different ways. It's just not for me. And back to Eon, if I play video games, yeah, though not right now because I'm the kind of person that gets immersed in things deeply. So when I play something, I'm often away for like 8 to 10 to 12 hours. It's hard for me to do something for just an hour, as some of you have probably noticed in previous live streams. It's hard for me to do something for just a little while. I just zone out. But I like old RPGs. I have a lot of them on the SNES console. And when it comes to a state of mind, it has definitely aided in opening it up in my youth. And that's something I used to do instead of hanging out with people when I was younger. I used to play games or be out in the forest instead. As for what technique I used when recording vocals and vines, well, we were out in a house we borrowed or rented in the countryside, and we didn't have good headphones or any speakers or anything like that back then. So I just drank a lot and had the music in the other room, and to not get too much bleed into the sound recording of the vocals when I was in the other room, I just did my screams then, and then we put that on top of the music, and that was it. And to Sheila, that's nice to hear. And you are very welcome. And back to Paul. As for the test press edition of Kaffe och Blod 2, I made the cloths in Belgium when I was recording Alltid Alena. In the nights, I went to a store in Brussels to get the cloth from a store, like a big roll of it, and I used that on the floors when I was making paintings for a ceremony. We borrowed an old cinema theater for a concert in Brussels. That one of the organizers of the Nidrosian Black Mass was in charge of, called Bunker. And unfortunately, we had to take the cloths down because the owner of the place complained about the smell. Well, I think they smell just fine because I'm used to things smelling decomposing. But they were up in the rooms around the stage, so I consider them being charged by that ceremony, and then I had them, of course, in the room while I was recording different Considered Suicide albums, and then at home at my house, where I infused them with different incenses and firewood, and then I let them hang out for a week outside. So they're also infused with the forest around my area. And then, of course, a year before that, we recorded the EP Kaff and Blood 2 just outside of Brussels, in the rehearsal space of one of our friends. Francois of Volvenest. And as for knowing where I move out to and where, right now I'm not sure. It will depend on a few things that I'll be able to share in a not too distant future. As someone that was involved with my house died, and his children are doing the paperwork for that, and I can't do anything until they have finished that. So I'm waiting for them and the bank to give me a date of a meeting, and then I will know when I have to move out, if I have to move in a month from now, or if I can wait until the autumn or winter. And to Andalus, about who made the logo for Life Lover, I made it together with my friend Jonas. We were looking for a font that was similar to my handwriting one night while drinking some good Hogarden Grand Cru, and we found an interesting font, and then we manipulated it in ways to not just be like a straight up font, because I don't like when, like, it works for some bands, and I do use it for some projects, but I also like to do something a bit different. So we used a font that we liked, but then we manipulated it and removed some aspects of it to make it our own. And that was in January 2006, the week after recording Sköld and Rakbladsvalsen. And that's nice to hear, Shane. That makes me proud too. And to Brady, if I'm making paintings, yeah, I'm going back home in the evening of Sunday. So tomorrow evening, I'm going back home because I have a bit more than 2 days off. So I'm going back home to make some paintings, and if I have any ones over beyond those that are ordered already, they will be on my shop. That you can find it through enjoy.com, or in the description in all of my videos and streams. There is links to my shop, the Symphony to the Void shop on Squarespace. Unfortunately, not a sponsor. And Paul, there's plenty of forthcoming or upcoming hypothermia and considered suicide releases. But right now I'm still working on remaking a deal with some record labels, because they ripped me off and I don't want to use the same deal for the next hypothermia album. That would be terrible, and it deserves better. So before that album can be reality, there will be things coming from Considered Suicide, both acoustic and also some piano things. There's also a second edition of Gudalik recorded at the same session as Altid Alena, but it needs to be remixed and remastered, and I think I don't want to bother Dia with that at the moment, but I will talk to him about it in the autumn for a release in the winter. And Shane, as for psychedelics, if I use them alone or indoors or out in the forest, I like a combination, but I prefer to do them alone. And I'm still working on my videos about that, but in them I will go a lot more in depth about it. But I usually started through a ceremony indoors at home, either while working on a song or a painting or two, and then I take a walk in the forest. Usually it's the morning or the nighttime, depending on the purpose of the ceremony, and then I'll see where it takes me. And sometimes I do it just laying down on the floor or in a bed while meditating with my eyes closed for the entire duration of the trip. And that works too, for just focusing your thoughts onto something. And to Maya concerning decadence, thank you. That is nice to hear. I think it's a good EP, and it's definitely a sign of those times in my life and my friends' lives. And that was a big catalyst of many things that happened back then. So yeah, I'm proud of it. It was a very special experience, and I'm going to go more in depth about that some other time. This is not really the right time or place. And if I ship paintings or shirts to Brazil, yeah, definitely. I ship worldwide. Always have. For the past 15 years. No? 16? I started my insect label and distribution in the spring of 2004. So since then I've been shipping all over the world, and I never really stopped. As for bad trips, I don't think that is a proper term. I've had some weird experiences, but I would never call them bad. I think it has many good, interesting things to teach you. You just have to listen and be attentive, paying attention. But yeah, it definitely taught me during one of those times that you should respect nature and don't take it for granted, and don't assume that you know what it is or what it can be. And as we are talking about plants, their effects are individual, and that's important to remember, because 5 of something doesn't necessarily mean 5 of something the next time. Even though they look identical, they can be 3, they can be 7, they can be 10. And you need to apply that if you're going to be expecting to be social or in a social environment. Because you might want to be alone, but you will discover that later. That's one example that I will go more in depth about in the videos that I'm working on. And no, I haven't tried the fly agaric. I've dried them to use for coloring clothes, but then I ended up throwing them away because I didn't have enough of them to make enough of a difference. As for creepiest things seen in a trip, well, I don't really think of anything as creepy. I have an open mind, but like being trapped in a vortex that you're standing in while having it above you as well, and it's drawing you in, like reality literally bending. That can be uncomfortable sometimes, but it's not creepy, and it's happened many times to me, so I don't really mind it. I just know to relax and let it go. Otherwise, you'll just end up vomiting or crying in the bathroom. And I've actually never done either of those things during the trips. I just had to sit in a, like, close to a lotus position and wait it out. As for if I mind telling about one of my weird trips, I definitely don't mind, but as I said, this is not the time or place. But I am working on videos that then later also will be like a proper like audiobook or podcast where I make like a soundtrack behind it and then talk in depth about my experiences and what I learned through them and what I applied to my life and so on. So that those recordings will be uploaded not just to YouTube but also like as proper recordings on Spotify and iTunes and so on. And Paul, about most memorable hypothermic concert. I'm going to do a video about that some other time because there is a few, but like in one of the comments in one of my videos, there were I think it's been asked once or twice about talking about live concerts, both hypothermia and life lover. So I'm going to do a series about some of those tours and trips and do my best to recall those experiences. As for what I think about Tenebras or Nuit Noire, I've never really heard of anything solo. I've never heard anything beyond Nuit Noire, but I've done a mini tour with him in the past, and it was a wonderful experience, and I liked him. I like him a lot, still do. We do some trades sometimes through email and mail. But yeah, when I have the right time and the mind to get back to his work, I look forward to experiencing it in the future. He's a really sweet guy, really dedicated man. It's definitely unique. And to Natasha, if I have a favorite tree, I'm not sure. I adore them in many different ways. Like I have a beautiful maple out my window at my house, and a birch forest is always special. And then there are different fir trees around the marshes where I live, and I always liked the interesting, really necro ways they express themselves through the branches, and they're a fantastic climbing tree if you're able to get up high enough on them. So they speak to me in different ways. As all my life I've been surrounded by different fir and spruce trees and so on. They have a special place in my heart, but different leaf trees are wonderful too, of course. As to what the Vemodsorkestern means, it's since 2005, 2006, when I started getting into the mindset of hypothermia as evolving to an orchestra. That's a name that I thought of, or that came to me. And Vemod is like a feeling of melancholy and emptiness. Can be connected to loss, but yeah, mainly melancholy. And orchestra, or orkesten, is literally orchestra. So it's like, and it can be misery too, but yeah, it's generally referring to an orchestra of melancholy or emptiness. And as for what kind of occultism I follow, none really. No other traditions, but I gather it where I can find it, and what interests me about different aspects of it, like through old literature and new that I found over the years, and through different meetings I have with people into the occult, in different paths or teachings of it. There is a lot you can find in terms of philosophy and spirituality that I think is very interesting. And as for the streaming, it might be your internet, but I've had problems with internet around here lately. Like our extender for the Wi-Fi has been bullshit lately. It's been dying. So I'm connected to the main internet here, which is on another floor. So it's most likely your internet, But if something happens to this stream, you know why. That yeah, because this is on a mountain, it's too far away for them to get like proper Wi-Fi or fiber. So it would be too expensive to upgrade the internet here. So they have the bare minimum to have a functioning Wi-Fi for conferences and so on. But as you can see, I don't see too much lagging, so should be fine. But in worst case scenario, you can always, as destroy stream or most streams, you can go back a minute or two and continue from there, and then you'll just have a lag on your end. But it's good to hear from others that they are not experiencing any difficulties. Unfortunately, I don't know enough about anything connected to Buddhism. But I look forward to learning about it in the future, as I know some people that it has benefited a lot. So I'm always interested in learning more in the future. When it comes to philosophy and spirituality, it's close to my heart, and I think it's very valuable. Good luck with the restart. I have a little bit coffee left, so I'll let the stream go as long as there is coffee. And back to Dunkelheit. As far as defining Satanism, that's a very difficult thing to do. And I wouldn't dare doing that in a limited format like this. I have some friends that are very educated in the subject that I would love to interview. So I think, and I've planned that for a while. I just need to have the time and finances to travel to them, because they can't come to me, so I need to go to them. And they're a couple of hours away. But when it comes to different aspects of occultism and Satanism or devil worship and so on, I know the right people to go to, and there will be videos in the future where we go in depth about that, because there's a lot to talk about. And right now is not the time or place. But I appreciate getting the question, because that's another reminder for me to reach out to these people and make the plans and start working on making it happen. And you're welcome, Shane. Glad to hear you here. And see you next time or another time. Take care. As for different forms, you can find like there are many different independent book publishers that publish literature on the subject, which in turn has different circles and communities around them. and it's the kind of thing that those who search will find. And if I'm participating in Oddly, I'm not sure. I haven't talked to him in a year. We were supposed to do some work a year ago, and then things happened in life and in the world, and it didn't go through, and I had to do other things in life. So I'm not sure what will happen in the future, but I'm open to anything connected to it. And if I take an inspiration from Forgotten Woods for Life, Love, or Hypothermia, to some extent, their way of producing music is very interesting to me, and to use like 60s rock production and rhythms combined with black metal is interesting to me. And we used some of that in Life Lover too, but back then, like, old works of Catatonia were more of an inspiration to us, which I think is very evident in some of the songs on the first two albums. But yeah, Forgotten Woods are important in many other ways. Just like some other projects out there, they show us that you should go out of comfort zones and boxes and definitions and do your own thing and trust your vision. And if I listen to classical music, I used to in the past, I haven't in many years. We listened to Chopin while we recorded Rakbladsvalsen and Sköld. Used to listen to it while having dinner. Our playlist was Chopin and Urfaust. Good mix. I think Dance of December Souls is a fantastic album. But we were very into the album Discouraged Ones. And I know there is some EP or split songs recorded by Artling and a second album, but I haven't been able to see any progress or updates, as I've been focused on other things the past year. If I think too much about what other people do, I don't get anything accomplished myself. So sometimes I have to be a bit egoistic or self-focused and just survive on my own, because I can't live through others. I'm very bad at that. And I haven't heard the latest Urfaust album yet. I've been focusing on composing and recording some of my own. But I look forward to experiencing it in the future. Like when I finish at this place in the autumn, perhaps it would be a good time to explore. And Paul, if there will be more guitar videos, yeah, definitely. This time I have to focus on making paintings during my days off, because I didn't have time for that last time. But as I have my new guitar right now, my next video is going to be going through the entire album of Skogens Hjärta. And that's something that I just can't throw away or throw together at any time. So now, when it's starting to become 15 to 20 degrees out, it's perfect to play guitar in the forest again, instead of having below 10 degrees or below zero even. And I don't like either Devil Doll or Alice in Chains. I think both of them are just completely uninteresting to me. Just, it's not for me. I'm not against anyone else appreciating anything when it comes to music. We all have our own taste. But to me, it's just, yeah, it's not for me. If I'm at a friend's place and they listen to anything that I happen to not appreciate or like on my own, I can tolerate it and find some merits in it, but it's not going to be anything that I put on by myself. As for the location of the Wrongest Photo guitar video, that's in the Nature Conservatory of Ursten. It's near where I live, which is 10 or so kilometers outside of Herrljunga, which is an hour east of Gothenburg in Sweden. It's a beautiful place in nature. And to Eon, as for an unplugged hypothermia concert, yeah. I've prepared a set in my living room. So that's going to be happening in the future, where I go through some songs in one set. And that's nice to hear, I guess, about the guitar player. And I like Seattle a lot. I was there for almost a month, about a decade ago. And if I were involved in any other musical movements in my youth, I have some friends in my youth that played guitar or other instruments, and they were more into the like melodic or technical aspects of death metal, and yeah, played like bass on some rehearsals and things like that, just to learn that playing bass with a pick is not for me. I prefer playing it with my fingers, and I also prefer slower music. So that also taught me that I can appreciate the atmosphere of death metal and some aspects, concepts of it or around it, but I prefer other aspects of it, like funeral doom or forms of doom, or yeah, especially like anything connected to that. It's like dark metal of Bethlehem is much more interesting, I think. Though it's far removed from it, I am aware. But yeah. Um, and yeah, there's a lot of nature in Seattle around it that is similar. Like the forests around Mount Rainier is very similar to where I live, and also to where I am right now, as an example. Uh, as for questions about different songs of Life Lover, yeah, I get them more than enough, I think. Naxcott is about people in small cities that you keep running into that have a story of their own that they don't show you, but everyone knows it. Like the local junkie and the local whore and so on. That's pretty much a summary of Naxcott. And Nitlot is, back then we were having people talking shit to us and about us, so we wrote a song for them. Pretty much. Like it's a diss track. Uh, and to Brady, if I ever heard Tristram, yeah, but it doesn't have a Wrongest Foot cover. That was a separate release, but I released that album that he made. But unfortunately, that label became defunct because the other people involved in it were incompetent. But I have a few hundred copies of it in my basement, and he's been at my house, and I met him many times, and he used to come to our rehearsal space with Life Lover and drink and smoke with me. He doesn't smoke anymore, but and doesn't drink, or he smokes but doesn't drink anymore. So we still get together to discuss philosophy and psychedelia. It's a fantastic, very inspiring human being, and I cherish him a lot. And it's his girlfriend that has made one of my favorite albums of the last decade too, that I've recommended in every time I am able, and previous streams too, which means Demon, Nectyr. I have it both on CD and vinyl in my shop, but you can buy it through the label too. And you can find it on Bandcamp and Spotify. It's a fantastic album. And when it comes to politics, as I've said it before, I know enough about it to have an opinion, but it's not worth discussing on this platform because they are very strict on what they allow, and I don't think it's worth the risk for the very low. There's no benefit to talking about politics on YouTube. There's only, disadvantages, and I don't have the time or energy for it. And I'm not at a position where I can make a difference right now. But if I ever come across a time or place where I will be able to make a difference, then I will. But I'm not going to search it out right now. I have other things to do. getting closer to my shift at work, so I'm going to finish up my half cup of coffee here. And as for influence of commercial artists, I can't really say anything right now. Nothing comes to mind, but of course there are some. Like I've talked about it before. Artists like Kate Bush or Björk are important for me. And I've been like in my youth, I've met some people that are into tabletop RPGs. Like I haven't played or been through anything like D&D, but I've done some like smaller, shorter experimental ones that took like 5 or 6 hours to go through like a thing that I did with one of my childhood friends. I'm not in contact with him anymore. Like I used to know him from the age of 5 to like 20, 21. Then we just fell out of contact over the years from growing up, living in different cities. Not just life. And if I could recommend a book I like, yeah, if you haven't read Nausea by Jean-Paul Sartre, you should. The language in it is beautiful and very inspiring. And of course, yeah, I plan to make more tattoos when I have the time. Right now, I don't. But yeah, it's in the future. And I don't like grunge or punk. I think it's not for me. I can appreciate the concept or aesthetics of it, but yeah, it's not for me. I think to me it's uninteresting. And same for G.G. Allen. To me it's just childish. And yeah, I agree. That's one of the big reasons why I don't discuss that subject. I have so much else that I feel that I can share and that has value, and that I have like over the years. I've made many sacrifices deliberately and voluntarily for the sake of maintaining a lifestyle that I find interesting and creative. And through doing that, I've been able to come across some things that others may not be able to. So that's also why I'm making some of my videos and albums, because I have access to some things that others simply won't have the time for exploring. And my next stream is tonight at 9 o'clock and onwards in Swedish time, so 21:00. And since that's why I made this morning stream today, because tomorrow is better for me. Like by doing a stream tonight, I can, like last time, let it be from anything to 1 to several hours long while drinking until I feel that I've had enough, or though I never really feel that. But yeah, it's going to be from 9 o'clock in the evening and onwards in Swedish time. And I think it's going to be a busy day today. A good crew of 3 people in the kitchen today, so it's going to be a good day with more coffee, some nice ice cream made of coconut milk. And yeah, I slept about 4 hours before making the stream. that's enough for me. Good to hear that you find music that I do inspiring. And I never feel cold with it either. As for a favorite flower, Olivia, I'm not sure. There are plenty that I like a lot. Of course, one important one that is, it's kind of a flower, but it's also a shrub. And it's very important to me. Is the heather. It's the plant of my county, and that's why I have it here. And if you search on heather on anywhere on the internet, you'll see it too, because it turns from white to pink and purple over the seasons. And where I live, there's like vast fields of it around the marshes. I love flowering shrubs. Yeah. And around those areas is a lot of blueberries too. So the combination of all the blueberry shrubs covered with berries in about a month or two from now, along with the heather, I just love that kind of scenery and sitting down in it. And Daniel, if I've ever tried mushroom coffee, I haven't, but as my friend in Tristram is being brought up here in other contexts, when he was at my house last time, he was drinking some other mushroom coffees. And I think that's something I will try next time I meet him. And Maya, Tristram has made another album. And it used to be up on Bandcamp, but then he removed it. And I know that he's working on another album for a couple of years now. So I'll ask him about it and see what the progress is. Because I'm pretty sure that it's going to be fantastic. And I know that he's working with a very special, proficient producer for it, who is a very talented musician too. But I'm not going to reveal that here, because I'm proud of him for putting all of that together. It's very impressive, and it's going to be very impressive, I'm very sure. So, yeah, his work has been very important to me and very inspiring, because he also reminds me how important it is to walk your own path and stay devoted to it. 4 cups in, I'm officially out of coffee for the moment, and it's getting closer to work today. So I need to go in the upcoming 5 or 10 minutes. But I can start by saying hi. Good morning back to Loud Clouds. And Maya, you're very welcome. As I mentioned, I look forward to being able to share more, but I need to speak to him first. We haven't talked in about a year or more. And that's like we usually speak on an annual basis. That's just how it works for me with many people that I know and interact with. We don't have the need to speak frequently, but when we speak a lot, and make sure to have experiences and thoughts during the time between. And now I'm not in my house, and I'm in a restaurant on top of a mountain. And when I work here, I live in this room because it's just on top of in the attic of the restaurant. There is, of course, a shower and an office and 2 bedrooms and a changing room. So I live in one of those rooms, so I don't have to travel for 2 to 4 hours every day, because that would be insane. And I would also always be late for work, because the trains from where I live, about 2.5 hours away from here, they don't start going until around this time of the day. So that means that I would be 1 or 2 hours late every day at work, and that would be, not a good way to work, because from 7 to 9 is one of the busier times of the workday to prepare things for the mornings and evenings are always mise en place. As for what food I like to cook, it depends on my mood, but traditional Swedish food is very interesting to me. And it's something I grew up with, as my father is a chef too. That's one of the reasons why I got into that kind of profession beyond art and music. But I've always loved food from Mexico, and I always liked food from Asia. I've known over the years people from Thailand and Japan, so I have a lot of influences from their cooking traditions too. And there's plenty of interesting concepts and techniques there. So I enjoy making different foods from those regions too. And yeah, I'm still vegan. It's more than a lifestyle to me, just a part of life. And I don't see any point or purpose in changing that. And that's fine. And thanks, Jan. I will. And back to the Dunkelheit here. That's fine. And sorry about that if I speak unclear. The name of the book is Nausea. I don't have a pen or paper, so I will write it in the chat. There you go. So, yeah, as I said, I'm getting a little dehydrated from all that coffee, and there's good mineral water downstairs, and I need to change to my working clothes. So thank you all for sharing this stream with me. And Uhtred, I haven't read anything by Knut. I'm not familiar with that author. The title sounds interesting, but yeah, the last years I've only read books on forging and brewing. And yeah, I would love to visit more Asian countries, and it would be interesting to visit African countries in the future too. But yeah, we'll see what happens in the future. But I don't see any reason to not go anywhere. I would love to do a music or art performance in any country, anywhere that is able to have me. So we'll see what happens in the future. And thanks, that's appreciated. And yeah, thank you. I appreciate, once again, spending time and sharing time here, and for some good and interesting questions. It's always interesting to me to see where we can take these different chats and discussions. And I will be back this evening for the next stream with some tasty beers and open mind. Take care, and I hope the rest of you have a good night or day. And yeah, beyond that, I look forward to working on the next couple of videos and songs. And yeah, see you tonight or another time. I'll make sure to schedule the next live streams more ahead of time so you can work them into your own schedules. Maybe if you have questions, thoughts, or ideas about anything you wonder about, let me know then. And it's always welcome in the comments too. Any ideas or suggestions or questions? Okay, I really have to go now. Sorry for procrastinating. See you later. Take care.